I knew people would talk. But you know, I'm way past worrying about what people that don't matter say. You know, there's so many people that they don't have a freaking clue.
Well, it's easier for you. You don't run into these people in public.
Which people?
Any people that has a negative outlook on this thing.
Well, do you know who they are?
I mean, nah, man, but I mean, I get stopped and yelled at all the time. I got cussed out in the gas station the other day.
You kidding?
Nah.
For what?
Being who I am, I guess.
Who was it?
Yeah, and so I don't know who he is. Some redneck fella.
And what did he say?
He just started making a ruckus in the gas station, yelling at me, talking about WTOC's looking for me, and, you know, called me a piece of shit and just stuff like that. Just crazy stuff.
I'm sorry, as I can be.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really talk to him. I just kind of escape the situation.
WTOC. I mean, what the does he know about WTOC?
Man, apparently he said he saw something on the news where they said that people are looking for me, or someone's. I don't know what he said. I mean, it's not like I sat there and asked any questions. I mean, I understand that you've done illegal, but that doesn't mean you can just, you know, turn a cold shoulder to the laws of the United States.
Allegedly done illegal stuff. I'm kidding. Anyway, but it is what it is, you know? It is what it is.
What if I told you that being the last son of a fallen dynasty could be a curse worse than prison itself? That while your father sits behind bars for taking the lives of your mother and brother, you're trapped in a different kind of cell. One made of suspicion, shame, and a name that once opened every door in South Carolina, but now slams them shut in your face? What if I told you that sometimes the hardest prison to escape isn't one with bars and guards, but the one built from a surname you never chose and a legacy you can't outrun? This is the story of Buster Murdaugh, the son who survived, the heir to nothing but scandal, and the man left to answer for crimes he never committed while defending a father convicted of the unthinkable. This is the story of what happens when your family name goes from being your greatest asset to your greatest liability. And this is the story that will make you ask yourself, what would you do if you were the last one standing? Before we continue, I need you to do something. If you're drawn to stories that explore the darkest corners of human nature, that question everything you think you know about loyalty and justice, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because here at Dark Trail Files, we don't just tell you what happened. We take you deep into the shadows where truth hides. We examine the cases others won't touch, ask the questions others fear to ask, and follow the trail no matter how dark it gets. This channel is for people who aren't satisfied with surface-level coverage. This is for people who want to understand the why behind the what, who want to see beyond the headlines and into the human cost of crime. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's walk this dark trail together. Trust me, you won't want to miss where this story goes. Now let's begin. Buster Murdaugh didn't choose his name. He didn't choose his family. And he certainly didn't choose the nightmare his life would become on June 7th, 2021. Born Richard Alexander Murdaugh Jr. on April 11th, 1996, in Hampton, South Carolina, he entered a world where his surname carried the weight of 3 generations of legal power in the state's lowcountry. His great-grandfather, grandfather, and father had all been solicitors, prosecutors, holding power over Hampton County and the surrounding region for nearly a century. 101 years, to be exact. The Murdaugh name didn't just open doors. It owned the building. Imagine growing up in that world. Your family doesn't just know the law, they are the law. Your father is the solicitor, the most powerful prosecutor in 5 counties. Your grandfather before him held the same position. Your great-grandfather before that. For over a century, if you needed justice in Hampton County, you went to Murdaugh. If you committed a crime in Hampton County, you answered to a Murdaugh. The family name was synonymous with power, with legacy, with untouchable influence that stretched across generations. Growing up, Buster was the golden child of this golden family. He attended Wade Hampton High School, where his father Alec wasn't just known, he was celebrated. Alec coached Buster's Little League teams, attended every game, was the kind of father who seemed devoted to his sons. The family lived on Moselle, a 1,700-acre hunting estate in Colleton County that seemed to embody everything the Murdaugh dynasty represented: land, legacy, and power that stretched as far as the eye could see. 1,700 acres. That's more than 2.5 square miles of property. Most people can't even fathom owning that much land. But legacies have a way of rotting from the inside out. And the Murdaugh legacy wasn't just rotting, it was built on lies, theft, and eventually blood. It was a house of cards waiting for the wind to blow. Buster followed the expected path. He graduated from Wofford College in 2018 with plans to attend law school at the University of South Carolina, his father's alma mater. He would be the fourth generation of Murdaugh lawyers. It was destiny. It was duty. It was what Murdaughs did. There was never really a question about it. When you're a Murdaugh, you become a lawyer. That's just how it works. But in 2019, something happened that would be the first visible crack in the family's pristine facade. Buster was expelled from the University of South Carolina School of Law. Court documents would later reveal it was for plagiarism and poor grades. For a family whose entire identity was built on legal excellence, this was more than just academic failure. It was a threat to the legacy itself. And here's where you start to see how the Murdaugh family operated. Alec, unwilling to accept this failure, reportedly paid a well-connected lawyer $60,000 to lobby the dean for Buster's readmission. $60,000. Think about that. Most families can't afford to send their kids to law school in the first place. The Murdaughs could afford to pay that much just trying to get their son back in after he'd been kicked out. The school conditionally agreed to readmit Buster, but he never returned. That decision to walk away from law school meant Buster would never become the fourth-generation Murdaugh attorney. The dynasty, at least in that traditional sense, was ending. By 2021, the cracks in the Murdaugh empire were becoming impossible to hide. Money was always at the center of everything in this family, and this conversation between father and son reveals just how desperate things had become. Listen to the tone, the urgency, the way Alec talks about finances. This is a man whose world is crumbling, and he knows it.
How you doing on finances?
Pretty slim, but it'll be getting better.
Well, listen here. Do you want me to tell Uncle John to give you, several $1,000s, and then I'll pay him back?
No, it's just I've just had expenses, like considering I had to change my medical insurance.
Well, we need to get John to pay for the storage facility and then let me pay him back.
Well, I don't understand how you would.
You need to be paying. But anyway, I mean, do you want me to get him to give you just, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 so you just have and you don't have to worry about expenses?
No, because I've got that money. I mean, right now my bank account, I've got $10,000. A little bit more when I get.
Like when you go play golf, you can, if you want to, get a shirt and have a drink and have drinks or whatever at the bar and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I mean, I've got stuff that can settle all that.
All right. Well, you just got to keep me posted because, I can get him to give you money and then pay him back. Okay. Well, you got to keep me posted and let me know, okay?
All right.
Everything else going okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
You want to take my clubs?
No, I just use mine. I don't know where yours are. I think yours are still in the Mercedes. It's at Slug.
By 2021, the pressure on the family was mounting from multiple directions. Buster's younger brother Paul was facing criminal charges in the death of 19-year-old Mallory Beach, who died when a boat Paul was driving while intoxicated crashed in February 2019. Paul had been drinking heavily that night. Multiple witnesses said he was belligerent, refusing to let anyone else drive. The crash killed Mallory, and her family was suing the Murdaughs in civil court. That civil lawsuit threatened to do something dangerous. It threatened to expose the family's finances through discovery. And the family had very good reasons to fear that exposure. Alex World, his carefully constructed empire of lies, was beginning to crumble. He was stealing from clients. He was addicted to opioids. His law partners were starting to ask questions about missing money. The walls were closing in. And then came June 7th, 2021. The night everything shattered. Buster was over 200 miles away at his girlfriend's house in Rock Hill, South Carolina, when his phone rang around 9:20 that night. It was his father. Buster had spoken to him earlier that evening, a normal conversation. Alec had told him he was going to check on his mother, Buster's grandmother, at her home in Alameda. Just a routine call. Nothing unusual. But this second call was different. When Buster took the stand at his father's trial in February 2023, he had to relive the worst moment of his life in front of cameras, reporters, and the world. This is what he said about that phone call. Watch his face, listen to his voice. This is a man describing the moment his life split into before and after.
Out that your mom and brother were murdered.
My dad called me. I can't remember the exact time, but it was later. And he called me on the phone. He asked me if I was sitting down, and I was like, yeah. And then he, sounded odd, and then he told me that my mom and brother had been shot.
What'd you do?
Well, Brooklyn, my girlfriend, was with me, and I think she heard she could hear my conversation kind of over the phone. And so she just started packing stuff, and I kind of just sat there for a minute, and I was in shock. But eventually we got our stuff together and drove down to Moselle.
Did you see your dad?
Yes, sir.
What kind of condition was he in? What was his demeanor?
Yeah, his demeanor was, he was destroyed. He was heartbroken. I walked in the door and saw him and gave him a hug and just broken down.
What did you do to help him pack?
Got his bag and went into the closet, grabbed some t-shirts, grabbed some shorts, grabbed toilet kit, put it in the bag and left.
Why were you doing the packing?
Just trying to help him. He was so upset. We were all upset, but just trying to expedite the process of getting to Alameda.
When did you first find out that your...
According to his testimony, Alec asked if he was sitting down. Buster said yes. His father's voice sounded strange, odd, off in a way Buster couldn't quite place. Then came the words that would split Buster's life into before and after. Your mom and brother have been shot. Not in an accident. Not hurt. Shot. As in someone had killed them. Maggie Murdaugh, 52 years old, and Paul Murdaugh, 22, were found dead near the dog kennels at Moselle. The scene was horrific. Maggie had been shot multiple times with a rifle. The medical examiner would later testify she was hit 5 times with a .300 blackout rifle. Paul had been shot twice with a shotgun. The first blast hit him in the chest. The second blast nearly decapitated him, removing the entire left side of his face and skull. The violence was brutal, personal, and shocking even for a region no stranger to tragedy. Buster and his girlfriend Brooklyn White immediately got in the car and drove through the night. It's a 3.5-hour drive from Rock Hill to Moselle under normal circumstances. You can imagine they made it faster. Buster arrived at the property around 2 in the morning. Yellow crime scene tape was everywhere. Law enforcement vehicles lined the long driveway. Flashing lights cut through the darkness. And somewhere in the middle of it all was his father. Buster testified that when he saw Alec that night, his father was destroyed, heartbroken, barely able to speak. They held each other. They cried. And according to Buster, neither of them would ever spend another night on that property. The place that had represented everything the Murdaugh family was, the land, the power, the legacy, was now a crime scene. It was the place where Maggie and Paul took their last breaths. In those first days and weeks, Buster stood by his father. Together, they even offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the conviction of whoever killed Maggie and Paul. They attended the funeral together. They grieved together. To the outside world, they appeared to be a father and son united in grief, desperate for justice, victims of an unthinkable tragedy. But behind the scenes, investigators were already suspicious of Alex Murdaugh. Very suspicious. And the more they dug, the more they found not just about the murders, but about decades of theft, lies, and manipulation. In the months following the murders, Alex Murdaugh's double life came crashing down with devastating speed. It started in September 2021, just 3 months after Maggie and Paul were killed. Alex was allegedly shot on the side of a road. He claimed someone had tried to kill him. The story fell apart almost immediately. Within days, Alex admitted he had asked a man named Curtis Edward Smith to kill him so that Buster could collect a $10 million life insurance payout. Even in his alleged suicide attempt, Alex was thinking about money. Then the financial crimes started coming to light. Alex had been stealing from his law firm. He'd stolen from personal injury clients, people who had been hurt, who trusted him to get them justice and compensation, and he'd taken their settlement money. He'd stolen from the family of his own housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield, who died in a fall at Moselle. The family thought they had a settlement. Alex had taken it all. The amounts were staggering, nearly $9 million. He'd been doing it for years, maybe decades, creating fake bank accounts, forging checks, telling clients their settlements were smaller than they were. Taking money meant for people who had lost loved ones, who were injured, who needed that money to survive. And through all of it, he was addicted to opioids, taking enormous amounts every day, spending thousands of dollars a week on pills. The man Buster called Dad, the man who coached his baseball teams and represented everything the Murdaugh name stood for, was revealed to be a fraud, a thief, and eventually a double murderer. When prosecutors questioned Buster during the trial, they wanted to know how much he knew about his father's secret life. His answer about the opioid addiction reveals something important about life in the Murdaugh family. There were things they didn't talk about, things they pretended weren't happening, even as the foundation crumbled beneath them.
Buster, were you aware that your dad had a opioid addiction?
A little bit. I knew a little bit about the usage of pills.
What did you know about it?
I knew that either my brother and mom had found them at some point, and then told them like, "Hey, we found these." And I want to say the 2018 around Christmas, he went to a detox facility after Christmas, and that was my knowledge of it. Thought that handled it, and then there were a couple more times after the fact where they would kind of go into this finding pills, all that stuff, and then he did a few kind of like at home, just self-detoxed a couple times, and thought once he did that get off of them. But that was kind of my general knowledge about it all.
You thought he had beat it?
That's right. Yes, sir.
And when he was confronted about his pills, what was his attitude?
I don't know for sure, because I wasn't there when a lot of the confrontations happened with them finding the pills. But I mean, I've never heard anything. Just apologetic and
right.
Sorry, and would usually be his kind of regular kind of response.
As Alex's crimes mounted, eventually totaling over 100 criminal charges, including theft of nearly $9 million, Buster remained publicly loyal. He attended every single day of his father's murder trial in early 2023, sitting behind him in the courtroom with his girlfriend, attorney Brooklyn White, by his side. Every day for 6 weeks, while the prosecution laid out evidence that his father had murdered his mother and brother, while witnesses testified, while experts showed crime scene photos. Buster was there, When Buster took the stand on February 21st, 2023, he testified on behalf of the defense. He described a close-knit, loving family. He said his father was destroyed by the murders. He painted a picture of a devoted dad who coached Little League, who had patience with his sons, who handled family disputes civilly like adults. He backed up his father's version of certain key details. One of those details would become crucial. On the night of the murders, Alec gave a statement to law enforcement. When talking about finding Paul's body, he said something. The prosecution claimed he said, "I did him so bad," a potential admission of guilt. The defense claimed he said they did him so bad, referring to unknown killers. Buster testified that he heard his father say they multiple times beginning right after the murders. He was certain. His father said they not I. But the prosecution's case was overwhelming. They had something the defense couldn't explain away, a video. At 8:44 p.m. on June 7th, 2021, just minutes before the prosecution said the murders occurred, Paul took a video on his phone at the dog kennels. In that video, you can hear voices. 3 voices. Paul's, Maggie's, and Alex. Multiple witnesses, including Paul's close friends, identified Alex's voice on that video. The video placed Alec at the exact location where Maggie and Paul were killed, right around the time they were killed. This was a problem because Alec had told law enforcement he hadn't been to the kennels that night. He said he'd been at the house, then left to visit his mother. He maintained that story for months. He told his brothers. He told his law partners. He told investigators. Then that video surfaced and everything changed. When confronted with it during his own testimony, Alec finally admitted he'd lied. He'd been at the kennels, but he claimed he left, and when he came back, they were dead. The timeline didn't work. The forensic evidence didn't work. The lies didn't work. The jury saw through it. On March 2nd, 2023, after less than 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Alex Murdaugh guilty on all counts, 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. When the verdict was read, Buster put his head in his hands. His father turned and looked at him, mouthed, "I love you," as deputies moved forward with handcuffs. The next day, March 3rd, 2023, Alex Murdaugh was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The judge, Clifton Newman, told him he'd seen a lot in his years on the bench, but this case stood out for its brutality and betrayal. And Buster Murdaugh became the last son standing. The last member of the Murdaugh dynasty. The only one left to carry a name that had gone from representing a century of legal power to representing murder and corruption. But Buster's nightmare was far from over. In fact, in some ways, it was just beginning. Because there was another death, another mystery, another set of accusations that would follow Buster wherever he went. In July 2015, 6 years before Maggie and Paul were killed, a 19-year-old nursing student named Stephen Smith was found dead in the middle of Sandy Run Road in Hampton County. It was early in the morning, around 3:30 a.m. His body was in the middle of the road. His vehicle was found 3 miles away, out of gas. The initial investigation ruled his death a hit and run, but even the investigators at the scene had doubts. Stephen's shoes were still on his feet, loosely tied. There were no vehicle debris at the scene, no skid marks, no signs of impact consistent with being struck by a car. He had a single blunt force trauma wound to his head, but the pattern didn't match a vehicle strike. His body wasn't dragged. There was no road rash. The highway patrol investigator wrote in his notes that this didn't look like a hit and run at all. Stephen was openly gay in a small southern town in 2015. He'd been a high school classmate of Buster's. And almost immediately, rumors began circulating in Hampton County. Whispers that members of the Murdaugh family, specifically Buster, might have been involved in Stephen's death. Some rumors alleged that Stephen and Buster had been in a romantic relationship. Others claimed that Stephen was killed to protect the Murdaugh family's reputation. The case went cold. For 6 years, Stephen's mother Sandy fought to get answers, but the case sat. Then, in June 2021, just weeks after Maggie and Paul were murdered, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division announced they were reopening Stephen Smith's case based on information gathered during the double murder investigation. They didn't say what that information was. In March 2023, just days after Alex's conviction, SLED confirmed they were investigating Stephen's death as a homicide, not an accident. Buster's name appeared dozens of times in the original case files. Witnesses told investigators they'd heard rumors of Buster's involvement. Some said they'd heard stories about young men in a vehicle striking Stephen with an object. But here's the critical thing. They were all rumors. Second-hand information. I heard that stories. No witnesses. No physical evidence. No direct testimony. Nothing concrete. In March 2023, 2 weeks after his father's conviction, Buster released a statement through his attorney. It said, "I have tried my best to ignore the vicious rumors about my involvement in Stephen Smith's tragic death. These baseless rumors of my involvement with Stephen and his death are false. I unequivocally deny any involvement in his death, and my heart goes out to the Smith family." Later, in a Fox Nation interview, he provided an alibi. He said he was at the family's Edisto Beach house with his mother and brother the night Stephen was killed. Attorneys for the Smith family have stated publicly they have no evidence linking Buster to Stephen's death. Stephen's own mother, Sandy Smith, has said she doesn't believe Buster was involved. But the cloud of suspicion remains. Because once your name is attached to something like that, especially when you're a Murdaugh, it doesn't matter what the facts are. The association sticks. The questions linger. And for Buster, it became part of the burden he carries. Guilty by association, guilty by name, guilty in the court of public opinion, even without a shred of proof. The media coverage made it worse. Documentaries on Netflix and other streaming services use suggestive editing, ominous music, and leading narration to imply a connection that investigators never found. They'd show Buster's photo, talk about Stephen's death, play dramatic music, and let viewers draw their own conclusions. In June 2024, Buster had enough. He filed a defamation lawsuit against Netflix, Warner Brothers, and other media companies, alleging that their documentaries falsely implied he murdered Stephen Smith. The lawsuit argues that the documentaries used manipulative storytelling techniques to create the false impression of guilt, damaging his reputation and causing emotional distress. As of late November 2025, that lawsuit is still ongoing, awaiting a judge's decision on whether it will proceed to trial or be dismissed. Even from behind bars, Alec continued to try to control the narrative. In this phone call, you can hear the frustration, the demands, the way he pressures his son to manage his public image. This is a man who still thinks he can control how the story is told, even after being convicted of double murder.
TV Friday bus. I saw John Marvin on there for just a second.
Dad, it was something ABC 2020. I didn't watch it.
Well, was it a new interview or was it from that old interview?
I would assume if it had him on TV, it had to be the old one. He has not gone on TV since.
He hasn't. 10-4. All right. Well, I mean, was it the same old stuff with a bunch of innuendo and false stuff, or were they being semi-truthful?
Dad, I'd love to be able to give you some insight, but I didn't watch it and I didn't seek out any transcripts from it. I don't know. I know.
It ain't no big deal.
I would assume it's the same old thing. Brooklyn told me some stuff that was on it, and it was stuff that's wrong. So I mean, it's just that same old
Stephen Smith and Gloria and all that bullshit.
I think it probably had to touch on that. I think this one hit maybe a little bit more on the boat wreck.
I gotcha.
I just know that there was some stuff that Brooklyn said that was said in the little show, and it's just stuff that's not important, but it just shows that if they are willing to state that in fact, that they just don't know what they're saying, because it's just stuff that's not true.
I understand. So are they still trying to say out there like there's some mystery surrounding Gloria's death about how she died?
Saying what now?
About how she died? Are they still trying to make some innuendo there?
About Gloria?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are they still anything about Stephen Smith, even though Andy Savage?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody.
No connection to us?
Yeah, I don't think anybody took the heart.
Did Sled ever come out and say there's no connection?
No, they
Even though
would
you
never.
told Andy Savage that?
No, Sled has not released anything. They didn't even release a statement about what was this most recent thing. There was something came out not long ago talking about how there's been like a breakthrough in evidence to do with like the homicides, and Sled wouldn't even come out and issue a statement saying that there has been no further evidence like gathered.
10-4.
So personally, I would not count on Sled to help in any way.
I was just curious. All right, my man. You get some rest, and now, what time you get on the road tomorrow?
About 8 a.m.
All right, I'll give you a call sometime when I can. Buster, what's going on with COVID out there? It must be going crazy.
It's this new variant. It's
Omni COVID or whatever.
Omicron.
Omicron. That's it.
The phone calls between Alec and Buster from Kirkland Correctional Institution reveal a complicated, sometimes disturbing relationship. South Carolina allows inmates to make phone calls, and those calls are recorded. Many of Alec's calls to Buster have been obtained by media outlets and released to the public. In some calls, Alec is emotional, professing his innocence, insisting he would never hurt Maggie or Pa, his nickname for Paul. He cries. He sounds broken. In other calls, he's demanding, telling Buster what to do, how to handle things, giving instructions like he's still the one in charge. Perhaps no phone call reveals how disconnected Alec had become more than this one. Just months after his wife and son were murdered at Moselle, Alec asked Buster to do something shocking. Listen to this and ask yourself, what kind of person makes this request?
Can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah.
What you doing?
Nothing. At Greenfield.
Y'all hunting?
We're going to this afternoon.
Let me tell you what you ought to do, Buster. I think the damn eaters were full over there at Moselle. If you felt like going back there, I bet with nothing going on, I bet there's deer all over them things.
Not me back. What's that going to do for me?
Kill a deer?
I'm not going hunting out there.
I don't blame you. I'm just letting you know. Do you care if I let Jim do it?
Jim who?
Jim Griffin.
Oh, I let him hunt deer out there? Or what are you talking about?
I didn't know if you wanted to hunt doves out there. If you do, then I want you to do it. If not, then I'm going to let him do it. Do you want a dove hunt out there?
No.
Not at all.
In that call, Alec actually asked Buster if he wanted to go hunting at Moselle, the property where Maggie and Paul were killed, the crime scene, the place where his wife and son had their lives violently taken. He asked his surviving son if he wanted to go hunting there. Investigators and prosecutors later pointed to this as evidence of Alec's callousness and lack of genuine grief. This conversation left many people stunned. Alec's request reveals not just insensitivity, but a fundamental disconnect from the horror of what happened. This is what he told his son to do with the belongings of his murdered wife and child.
Nights are better.
Yeah, having a good day. I've been spending so much money and it hurts me.
On what?
People's Christmas presents.
Well.
I mean, I got to buy a present for everybody.
Well.
And it's a lot of people.
I'll tell you this, Bus.
What?
Hang on. We give people something that was Mom or Paul's. And I think people really like that.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to do that.
We'll see if I get out of here, which, like I say, I'm not optimistic, but we'll see. We'll see. They seem to be optimistic, but they were optimistic the first time too.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, I've already bought everybody something, so.
Well, we'll talk about finances when I get out of here, but I'm gonna make sure you're okay.
Well, I mean, I make money.
I know.
And if I don't go back in the spring, then I'll continue to make more effectively.
I know. I'm talking about anyway. We'll get all that square. Talk to you when we're not on this phone being recorded.
Alec told Buster to give away Maggie and Paul's belongings as Christmas presents. Personal items. Things that belonged to people Alec was convicted of murdering. He wanted them distributed as gifts. The request was so shocking that even people who had followed every twist of the case couldn't believe it. In this call, Alec discusses his daily life in prison. What's striking isn't just what he says, but what he doesn't say. There's an almost casual quality to these conversations that seems completely at odds with his situation.
I don't know what's going on, but there's some big weekend where the Bloods and the Crips kill each other. So this is the first time I've been out of my thing in, I don't know, a while. It's been on lockdown all week. So I don't know when I'm going to get the call again. I just didn't want you to worry about me.
Okay. How do you know that this is a big weekend that gangs kill each other?
Because I asked a guy, I was like, we've been on lockdown since, the only times I've been out of my cell were to go see Jim. The other day, and to go, I don't know, get some medical thing. And I was like, well, are we going to get out of our things today? And he's like, nah, this weekend is, and he called it something. And I'm like, what is that? And he said, that's a big, something with the blood. And, they fight, I don't know, kill each other. I don't know. I ain't seen no blood where I'm at, but I guess it's uniform across the board.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what they told me.
By 2024 and into 2025, Buster had largely withdrawn from public life. After the trial, after the verdict, after the sentencing, he did what he could to disappear. He stopped giving interviews after the Fox Nation documentary. He kept his social media private or deleted accounts altogether. He and Brooklyn moved, trying to find privacy, trying to build a life away from the cameras and the questions and the judgment. On May 3rd, 2025, Buster married Brooklyn White in a private ceremony at Coosaw Point, a former hunting preserve turned event venue near Beaufort, South Carolina. The irony wasn't lost on people. Alec's trial for financial crimes had been held in Beaufort County. Now his son was getting married there. The wedding was intentionally kept quiet. Guests were reportedly asked not to take photos or share details. There were no social media posts announcing the engagement or the wedding. Photos that did surface showed a beautiful ceremony beneath a sailcloth tent overlooking marshland. Tables covered in green and white, hydrangeas and greenery. Brooklyn in an elegant off-the-shoulder gown, Buster in a white tuxedo jacket with a monogrammed belt bearing his initials, RAM, for Richard Alexander Murdaugh Jr. It should have been a happy day, a private celebration, a moment of joy. But even that couldn't escape the shadow. Media outlets reported on it. True crime forums discussed it. The Murdaugh name meant that even Buster's wedding became news. Buster and Brooklyn now live in a modest 3-bedroom home in Bluffton, South Carolina, purchased in 2023 for approximately $445,000. It's a nice home in a nice neighborhood, but it's a far cry from the sprawling Moselle estate with 1,700 acres. It's a far cry from the life Buster was raised to expect. Neighbors describe them as quiet and unassuming. Buster is occasionally seen running errands or walking his dog, but he rarely engages with anyone. He keeps his head down. He lives small. The man who was supposed to be the 4th-generation Murdaugh attorney, who was supposed to carry on a century of legal dynasty, is now just trying to live a normal, quiet life in anonymity. During the trial, there was one moment that stood out to everyone watching. Alex spoke directly to Buster from the witness stand. It was a moment of raw emotion in a trial full of shocking testimony and devastating evidence. Watch how Buster reacts. Watch the pain on both their faces.
Buster,
I am so sorry that I let you down. I am so sorry that I have not been able to be with you. During such hard times. I am so sorry that I did so many things that are so contradictory to every single thing Mom and I ever taught you and Paul. I am so sorry. I am so very sorry that the things that I did and that I am pleading guilty to here today have somehow caused some people, especially people on social media, and some people in the media, to somehow believe that based on the things that I did, that it is somehow okay to make false, baseless, unsubstantiated claims against you that are not only based on no facts and no evidence whatsoever, but are also not based on any semblance of reality whatsoever. And I am so sorry that you have had to go through that. I know, Buster, that you know that I have always been proud of you. I have never been more proud of you than I am for the way that you have handled all of the adversity that I put on you. Your whole family is proud of you. Mom is proud of you. And Papa is proud of you. I see in letters, emails, and messages that people give to my attorneys.
The story isn't over. Alex Murdaugh is appealing his conviction, and the appeals process has become its own saga. In December 2024, Alex's attorneys filed a 132-page appeal with the South Carolina Supreme Court. The appeal makes several arguments for why Alex deserves a new trial. The main argument centers on allegations of jury tampering by Becky Hill, the Colleton County Clerk of Court, during the trial. After the verdict, allegations emerged that Hill had made inappropriate comments to jurors during the trial, telling them to watch Alex's testimony carefully, to watch his body language, suggesting he was guilty. Hill also allegedly wrote a book about the case, hoping to profit from a guilty verdict. In January 2024, a hearing was held before retired South Carolina Supreme Court Chief Justice Jean Toll. 12 jurors testified. 11 said Hill's alleged comments had no impact on their verdict. One juror said she heard Hill make comments, and it made her feel like Hill thought Alex was guilty. But even that juror said she based her verdict on the evidence, not on Hill's comments. Judge Toll denied the motion for a new trial. She found that while Hill's behavior was inappropriate and that Hill was not entirely credible as a witness, Alex's defense team failed to prove that Hill's comments directly influenced the jury's verdict. The evidence of guilt, Toll said, was overwhelming. Alex's attorneys appealed that decision to the South Carolina Supreme Court. On August 13, 2024, The Supreme Court agreed to review the case. The state was given time to respond. Multiple extensions were granted. Finally, on August 8, 2025, just before midnight on the deadline, the Attorney General's office filed a 182-page response. The state's response was brutal. They argued that Alec was convicted because he was obviously guilty, that the evidence was overwhelming, and that Hill's alleged comments were foolish and fleeting and affected only 3 jurors at most, with only 1 juror even suggesting it made any impression. They pointed to the Kennel video, the lies, the financial motive, the forensic timeline, all of it. Alec's defense team filed their final reply on September 9, 2025. They accused prosecutors of misstatement facts, defending a structurally defective trial, and ignoring evidence of investigative failures and jury tampering. As of late November 2025, the South Carolina Supreme Court has scheduled oral arguments for February 11th, 2026. That's when attorneys from both sides will stand before the state's highest court and make their case. The justices will then deliberate and issue a decision. That decision could come weeks or months after the oral arguments. If Alec wins his appeal, he could get a new trial. But even if he wins, he won't walk free. In November 2023, he pleaded guilty to 22 state financial crime charges and was sentenced to 27 years. In April 2024, he was sentenced in federal court to 40 years for federal financial crimes. Those sentences run concurrently with each other. But if the murder convictions are overturned, Alec would still serve decades in prison for stealing millions of dollars from clients and his law firm. For Buster, the appeals process means living in limbo. It means the story never ends. It means every few months there's a new filing, a new hearing, a new round of media coverage. It means he can't move on because the case won't let him. So what does it mean to be Buster Murdaugh in late 2025? What does it mean to carry a name that was once synonymous with justice, but is now synonymous with murder, corruption, and scandal? It means living with the knowledge that your father, the man who was supposed to protect you, who coached your little league teams, who you loved, killed your mother and brother. The jury said so. The evidence said so. Everyone except Alec himself, and Buster says so. It means being suspected of a crime you didn't commit simply because of who your family is. It means strangers on the internet debating whether you're a murderer based on nothing but your last name and some old rumors. It means having to file a defamation lawsuit just to fight back against the constant insinuation that you're guilty of something. It means watching documentaries about your family, reading articles, scrolling through social media comments that accuse you, judge you, dissect every word you've ever said and every expression on your face. People analyze the way you looked at your father during the trial. They question why you supported him. They wonder out loud if you knew about the murders, if you helped cover them up, if you're hiding something. It means having to defend your innocence when you were never even charged with anything. How do you prove you didn't do something when no one has officially accused you? How do you fight rumors and innuendo? You can't. You just have to live with it. Buster didn't pull the trigger. But in many ways, he's serving a life sentence too. Think about it. He lost his mother, his brother, and his father, not to a tragic accident or a disease, but to an act of violence committed by the man who raised him. He lost his family legacy. The Murdaugh name, which had represented power and prestige for over a century, is now a joke, a cautionary tale, a symbol of corruption. He lost his career path. He never finished law school. He's not a lawyer. He'll never be the 4th-generation Murdaugh attorney. He lost his privacy. He can't go to a grocery store without being recognized. He can't scroll through his phone without seeing his family's name dragged through the mud. He can't escape the question that follows him everywhere. How much did you know? And here's the most haunting part. Buster maintains his father's innocence. Even after the guilty verdict, even after the overwhelming evidence, even after the appeals court said the evidence was overwhelming, Buster has said he doesn't believe his father killed Maggie and Paul. In the Fox Nation interview, he admitted it was fair to call his father a psychopath for his financial crimes and lies. He said his father had characteristics of a psychopath, the manipulation, the lies, the stealing. But he insisted Alec was not a murderer. He said he thinks the real killer is still out there. He said he fears for his own safety at night. He said he thinks the jury had their minds made up before they heard the evidence, that his father didn't get a fair trial, that the media coverage and the public sentiment made it impossible for him to be judged impartially. Is this loyalty? Is this denial? Or is it the only way Buster can survive? By believing that somewhere beneath all the lies and addiction and theft, the father he knew still exists? By believing that his father couldn't have looked his mother and brother in the eyes and pulled the trigger? That's the psychological prison Buster lives in. That's the cognitive dissonance he has to navigate every single day. He knows his father is a thief. He knows his father is a liar. He knows his father is a manipulator. He admitted all of that, but he can't accept that his father is a murderer. Maybe because if he accepts that, then everything he knew about his family, about his childhood, about his father's love for him, becomes a lie. Maybe because if he accepts that his father murdered his mother and brother, then he has to accept that he never really knew his father at all. As this case continues to unfold, with Alex's appeal scheduled for February 2026 and Stephen Smith's case still unsolved, we're left with questions that may never be answered. Was Buster truly in the dark about his father's crimes? Or did he see signs he chose to ignore? What does it cost a person to defend someone they love, even when the evidence says they're guilty? And can someone ever truly escape the shadow of a family name that has become synonymous with tragedy? Here's what we know for certain. Buster Murdaugh didn't commit murder. He wasn't charged with any crime related to his mother and brother's deaths. He wasn't charged in Stephen Smith's death. He has never been arrested, but he inherited a kind of guilt anyway. The guilt of association, the guilt of survival, the guilt of a name he can never shed. The Murdaugh dynasty is over. The power is gone. The law firm that bore the family name has been dissolved. The Moselle estate has been sold. All that remains is one man, trying to build a life from the ashes of everything his family destroyed. Think about what that means. Buster is only 29 years old. He has potentially 50, 60, 70 more years to live with this. Every time someone Googles his name, the first results will be about his father's murders. Every time he applies for a job, the person interviewing him will know who he is. Every time he meets someone new, he has to wonder, do they know? Are they treating me differently because of my last name? Can I trust them? Or are they just interested in the story? This is the burden of being the last Murdaugh son standing. This is what it means to inherit not wealth, not power, but scandal and suspicion. This is what it means to love someone who the world believes is a monster. And maybe the most important question we should ask ourselves is this. What would you do if you were in Buster's position? If your father was convicted of murdering your mother and brother, would you believe it? Could you accept it? Or would you, like Buster, hold on to the belief that the person who raised you, who loved you, couldn't possibly have done something so evil? Because that's really what this story is about. It's about the limits of loyalty. It's about the power of denial. It's about what happens when the person you love most in the world turns out to be someone you never really knew. It's about the weight of a family name that becomes a burden instead of a blessing. Buster Murdaugh's story isn't over. The appeals will continue. The media coverage will continue. The speculation will continue. And Buster will continue trying to live a quiet life, trying to rebuild, try to move forward while carrying a past that refuses to let him go. This is Dark Trail Files, where we follow the truth no matter how dark the trail gets. If this story made you think, made you question, made you see the human cost of crime in a way you hadn't before, then do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to see it. Because these stories matter. The victims matter. The survivors matter. And the truth, however complicated and painful it might be, always matters. We don't just tell you about crimes. We explore the aftermath, the ripple effects, the lives that continue long after the verdict is read. We ask the hard questions. We follow the dark trails that others won't walk. And we do it because you deserve more than surface-level coverage. You deserve the whole story. So if you value deep dives into true crime, if you appreciate storytelling that doesn't just shock you, but makes you think, if you want to be part of a community that's interested in the why behind the what, then this channel is for you. Subscribe now and join us on the next dark trail. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and remember, the darkest trails often lead to the most important truths. The Murdaugh case taught us that nothing is as it seems, that power can corrupt completely, and that sometimes the greatest tragedies are the ones that happen inside families, behind closed doors, in places that look perfect from the outside but are rotting from within. Buster Murdaugh is still out there, still living with the weight of a name he never chose and a tragedy he couldn't prevent. His story is a reminder that in true crime, there are often more victims than just those who died. They're the survivors who have to figure out how to keep living. I'm signing off from Dark Trail Files. Thank you for walking this dark trail with me. Stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you on the next one.